reacting to my old book opinions. Now I thought it'd be fun to go back through some of my backlog and look at some of the videos I made where I have quite a strong opinion or I make commentary, and then basically rate my opinion on these 4 things. 1, is it spot on? 2, was my opinion reasonable but flawed? 3, was it just poorly thought out? And 4, flat out wrong. So I think I have like 8 or yeah, I think 8 opinions. So let's have a look at the first one, shall we? And this is one of the ones I'm a bit embarrassed about. So let's have a look. Level 1, the coloring book fantasy world. So these are where the world looks impressive at the first glance, but the moment you dig deeper, you realize it's all just tracing or something that came before. And for this example, I will use Eragon by Christopher Paolini. Alright, I'll admit it, I have actually never read Eragon, but if there's one thing that everyone has told me about it, is that this world kind of feels like a copy-paste of Tolkien. Alright, did you catch it? So I'm actually quite proud of that video, like I put a lot of hard work, but man, the amount of comments I received roasting me or hating on me or criticizing me for using Eragon as an example, the first book, which I hadn't read, was just immense. And now I reflected on it a bit more, and yes, I do kinda understand why people are annoyed, especially if you're part of the, the Eragon fandoms or the Inheritance Cycle fandom. Then it might be really annoying to just see around a booktuber class your favorite series as level 1 complexity. Now, to be fair, this video was never about reviewing the world. It's just like I did some research into the world and I had a look at some of the critiques a lot of people give the first book, so not even the whole series, and this just seemed to fit the bill really well. And to this day, like, Eragon readers say it does fit the bill, but people were so annoyed that I used an example that I hadn't read. And looking back on it, I do agree. I don't think I should have used it, because also it just opens me up for a lot of critiques that I could avoid it. I could have used some other worlds easily. So I think I'm going to be ranking this opinion as flat out wrong. So I'm gonna try going forward not to do that again, okay? Please forgive me, Eragon fans. Alright, let's have a look at the second opinion, shall we? Highlighted it. This new upcoming book, which does have a gorgeous cover, is receiving a bonus chapter. Oh no, sorry, it's not 1 bonus chapter, it is 5 additional bonus chapters that are all spread across 5 different books. And to me, this just seemed absolutely insane. Alright, I'm going to be instantly ranking this opinion as still spot on. Now, it's been 2 years since I made that video, and I still think that this practice of writing bonus chapters and then spreading these bonus chapters out across 5 different editions, which means that if you're a huge fan of this series, if you want to read every single bonus chapter and you want to do it like ethically and legally, you literally have to go out and buy the same book 5 times. One of the worst modern book practices I've ever seen. Is literally like adding DLC to a book. Fortunately, after I made this video, I don't think I've seen this trend pick up. It might have, but genuinely, like, it felt like it started to pick up a bit. I haven't seen it since. I might be wrong here, but I would rate this opinion as spot on. This is a horrendous practice. I think bonus chapters are fine, but do not make it literally almost impossible for anyone to access all of them without spending like $200. It's just ridiculous. Alright, epic fantasy is dying and it's making me sad. One of my most contentious videos. Let's just have a quick look at the intro and I'll let you know if I've changed my mind on this one or not. Epic fantasy is dying. Publishing houses are seemingly abandoning epic fantasy. Several fantasy adaptations such as Rings of Power and Wheel of Time are tanking. And romantasy such as Fourth Wing and cozy fantasy such as Legends and Latte is getting all the love at the moment. I mean, how did we get to a place where we are reading books such as Lord of the Rings with passages such as... Alright, let me just skip there. Alright, so just to give a very quick recap, because I don't expect all of you to have seen all those videos. So in that video, I basically highlighted 3 different things that I had noticed recently, and also my fellow booktuber Patrick had also mentioned some of these. So one of it was that fantasy author Wesley Chu. He had posted a tweet that he said that the biggest publisher in Germany was going out of the fantasy business because of romantasy. Now, the second thing I showed was that Ed McDonald, also a fantasy author, he basically discouraged fantasy authors from writing trilogies and just asked them to stick to standalone Thrones. And then lastly, Peter McLean, also fantasy author, said that his quartet, which had sold out in the United States, so he had earned more money than it cost to produce, was not going to be finished published in America because it hadn't sold a crazy amount. And then he even said that he has been asked to limit how many words he has on the page. And then also Mike Shackle commented, and L.R. Lamb also commented, also fantasy authors, that they have also been told by their publishers to not write too long books. And then from those three things, my overall thesis was that there seems to be a trend that doesn't favor epic fantasy. And we're currently in a climate where we're kind of seeing epic fantasy dying. Now, that video caused a lot of discussion, and I totally understand why, because obviously it's a bit doomist, isn't it? Like, I can understand how people see me being extremely dramatic, talking about epic fantasy literally dying, and maybe that word dying was a bit clickbait, but have I changed my mind since creating the video? I would say yes, I have changed my mind a bit, and also no, I haven't changed my mind that much. Now let me expand a bit more, shall I? So this video came out around 14 months ago, and if we look at the current climate we're in now, I definitely think there's a lot of evidence that, you know, traditional epic fantasy, you know, the Wheel of Time worlds, A Song of Ice and Fire kind of worlds, or Tolkien or Middle Earth or anything like that, those kinds of words do not thrive in the current climate. And I would even say that we are seeing like an incredible small amount of epic fantasy books that are like that being published. So in that sense, I haven't changed my mind that much. Now, to be fair, we have seen some books that are, you know, epic or similar to those kinds of books, like Middle Earth, like The Silver Blood Promise is a great one. I love that one. Also, the Bregan Binding Publishing are actually going to publish Of Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill, and that book is extremely, you know, typical, very reminiscent of the Faithful and Fallen, the Wheel of Time kind of series. So it's not the fact that we're not seeing those books published at all. They do still exist. But if I were to mention a wide range of authors that write in the vein of Robert Jordan or, for example, George R. Martin in today's market, I would really struggle. I could mention some of the huge names, but there are almost none of them out there. Now, if I made this video today, I would change some things. Firstly, I am not as worried about the state of epic fantasy anymore. I do think it's a shame that it seems like those big long epic sagas that require a lot of words do not thrive as much in this climate. That being said, I do think the epic fantasy is much more resilient than I probably did in that video. So I am sure that epic fantasy will probably come back into, you know, it'll start trending eventually. And in the meantime, I'm just going to be reading a lot of the backlog. Secondly, I think especially because of the intro in that video, a lot of people perceived me as being a romantasy hater. And yes, I roasted romantasy a bit on this channel every once in a while because I just think it's fun. It's not the genre for me. But if I made this video differently today, I would try to think differently about how I could actually make this video without making it feel like I was a romantasy hater. I just want romantasy and, you know, traditional epic fantasy to thrive alongside each other. Another thing as well that is like maybe a more recent development that I didn't think about in that video is that our current climate has also given the rise to some new series. For example, Dungeon Crawler Carl, I believe, is thriving because the publishing climate has changed. Now, if we were still in the era where, you know, publishers only wanted A Song of Ice and Fire or, you know, The Wheel of Time or Tolkien or something, then Dungeon Crawler Carl would probably never have seen the light of day, which definitely would have been a shame. So there's definitely some huge benefits as well with the current climate. But yeah, it's a very nuanced discussion, and I think I'll rate this opinion I made in that video, I think reasonable but flawed. I think overall I had the right idea, but I probably missed some nuance in that video. Alright, let's go to the next one. So this is called The Dark Side of the Book Community, also gained a lot of discussions. Let's have a look at the intro, shall we? The dark side of Booktube. One thing you probably didn't know is that every single year, countless of Booktube creators stop making content. And in preparation for this video, I watched a bunch of videos from Booktube creators that announced that they are leaving this platform. And today I wanted to have a discussion about, is there anything wrong with this community? Why are Booktube creators quitting making content? And am I potentially also a part of the problem? Alright, so just to very briefly recap, so in that video, I basically made four main points. And actually, I didn't really highlight a lot of my own opinion here. I just highlighted what other booktubers that were leaving the platform were saying, and that was that creators are experiencing a lot of burnout. They just feel like Booktube isn't that rewarding. The second factor was that there's a lack of diversity in Booktube community. The third one was that Booktube can foster an unhealthy relationship with reading by, you know, focusing on materialism, for example, which is that Booktube often also promotes consumerism. So it was really interesting to see all the different discussions that came out of this video, and to this date I don't think I would change anything massively, because again, I was just highlighting what other creators were saying. I didn't really give give my opinion that strongly in the video. But what a lot of other creators that actually responded to this video said is that Booktube is what you make it. And there's almost kind of this sense from some creators, you know, and nothing wrong with any of them because I agree with them, is that if you go into Booktube chasing trends or growth or money or fame or popularity, then it's extremely likely you'll become discouraged. And some of these other creators said that it's not Booktube's fault or even YouTube's fault if you go into Booktube with the wrong mindset. That is actually your own fault. And I do actually kind of agree with this. I think that if you create a Booktube channel with the mindset of, you know, want to become super famous, then you're probably going to have a horrible time because Booktube is such a tiny niche with so much competition. That being said, I do still think that almost no one, I would say 99 out of 100 creators, they do not enjoy making videos that no one sees or listens to. No one enjoys being creative and just feeling like what you're creating is being put out into a void. So I think both can be true here. I think the creators should reflect on why they're doing Booktube and what they want to get out of it, but I also think that some of the critiques like Booktube promotes consumerism or whatnot are also valid. So yeah, I don't want to give this opinion a spot on. Let me just say it's reasonable but flawed. I don't know. It's somewhere between those two. Let's look at an old Malazan video I made more than 3 years ago, and I called it, I read this controversial fantasy series and it was a disaster. Let's have a look, shall we? Guardians of the Moon very quickly goes from being complicated to being overwhelmingly complicated. In a matter of like 10 pages or maybe 20, I went from following the story to having no idea what was going on. And the reason for that is because Eragon doesn't spoon feed you anything, and that is intentional. Reading the series almost feels like starting on page 500 of an epic fantasy series, and then it's up to you to try and catch up and piece together the story. Consequently, I found it incredibly difficult to just go with the flow of the story as Philip Chase recommended, because you constantly feel like you missed something really important in the story. Alright, what do you guys think about my Malazan opinion? Alright, I genuinely thought when I started my channel, and this is one of my first videos, that, you know, I had to be engaging to the camera and I had to use my hands. And mate, I can't even watch my old videos now, because like the hand waving, like I barely heard anything I just said there, because my opinion is all over the place. Okay, so hand waving, I would rate that flat out wrong. Horrible hand waving. If you're a booktuber, keep your hands calm. Keep them down here, please. Now, what do I think about my Malazan opinion? I think I'm gonna rate it reasonable but flawed. It's been, you know, I've been on a journey with Malazan, because since that video, I also tried Malazan again, and I DNF'd it again. And I think every time I pick it up and every time I see more videos on it, I just learn a bit more about what makes this series so appealing to so many readers. Hey, my hands are waving. Let's put them down here, shall we? Now, what I was saying now is that if I made this video today, I would just show a bit more maybe appreciation for Malazan. I would also emphasize that life phase can have a huge impact on when you actually enjoy a series. So many Malazan readers have told me that the timing needs to be right when you pick up Malazan, and then maybe in my 30s when I pick it up, it'll blow my mind, and that might very well be the case. So yeah, I tried Malazan twice. I feel like I can have an opinion about it, but I'll also say here that it's still a series that I can see myself eventually falling in love with. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. So let's go to the next one, and this is not about Malazan, but this is my video where I read Fourth Wing. I read a book about horny dragons and hated it. Let's have a quick look at what I said about Fourth Wing, shall we? But like, I want those awe-inspiring epic fantasies. I want books that analyze themes about some deep things in life. I want great characters and so on. And this book, I mean, it does have a great plot actually. It has some nice plot twists, but I just can't get over the romance, and I especially just can't get over the dragons. And I know some. Alright, I'm gonna leave it there. Have I changed my mind about Fourth Wing? I've only read it once, and this was more than 2 years ago, but no, I haven't. I'm gonna rate this opinion spot on. I did not enjoy that book. I think that it does a lot of things really cleverly, like pacing is spot on. It hits almost all the tropes that that audience is gonna look for and does it really, really well. But in that video, I really emphasized this book just isn't appealing to me personally as a reader, and still to this day, I don't think I've changed that much as a reader. It doesn't appeal to me. So if you enjoy it, I'm happy for you. I'm gonna rate this opinion spot on. Alright, we have one more. Let's look at what's up with the Priory of the Orange Trees. Also a video, I made this a bit more than 2 years ago. Let's have a look what I said about it. Let's let's talk about what I didn't love. Having read this book, I definitely thought that the market for this type of book would have been much, much smaller, and I'm finding it incredibly hard to recommend this book. Alright, so you see my hand waving there, so this is a bit later, isn't as crazy, I'm still shaking my hands, waving my hands a bit. You can actually watch that video. So, that review there, I basically reviewed the massively popular... What's going on with my hands now? This is... hands down here. In the video, I basically reviewed The Priory of the Orange Tree, which is a massively popular epic fantasy book that came out 5-6 years ago. And my overall thesis was that I really enjoyed several things, like the world building, I enjoyed some of the characters, but I also found it incredibly surprising how popular that book is. Because I think that that book, The Priory of the Orange Tree, has a lot of pacing issues. The build-up is just incredibly slow, and it's a standalone. So in my opinion, it felt like it had 700 pages of slow build up, and then when you get to the ultimate climax of the novel, it is resolved within like 30 pages, then that's it. And it just did not feel satisfying at all. And yeah, the elements that are good, but I just felt like, you know, the climax and the pacing just really made it a slog for me to read that novel. That being said, it's not a bad novel. I think I gave it 3 stars. I did definitely enjoy several sections of it. I was just surprised when I read that novel that it was as popular as it was, and it's still like a massively popular book. It's a bestseller. So how would I rate this opinion? I'm also gonna rate it spot on. I do still agree completely, and if you watch my channel, then you know it's not a book that I have recommended that much on my channel, because even though, as I said, the world building is phenomenal, it does some really interesting things with the dragons, the overall reading experience was just, yeah, inconsistent, and I didn't really enjoy it massively. I do still want to read A Day of Fallen Night, which is a prequel, which I've heard from some readers is much better, because I do think that Samantha Shannon is a really talented author, so hopefully that book will vibe a bit better with me when I eventually get there. Alright, so what did you think about my opinions here? Do you think I'm wrong on any of these? I would love to hear your comments, and also let me know if you want me to do a part 2, because yeah, since I started this channel, I have said a lot of things that might be a bit stupid or might have been really clever. I'll leave that up for you to decide. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to support this channel, please go and check out my Patreon and also Fable. Bye!